Hey, wait, before we get into the episode, I want to share some exciting news with you. My new book comes out September 30th, and it's called Less Lost: Finding and Being Yourself in the Wilds of Ordinary Life. It's part memoir, part field guide to being yourself in a world that keeps asking you to be someone else. And in it, I share stories from yoga sessions, motorcycle rides, encounters in nature, and even a run-in with the Dalai Lama. And every chapter pairs a story with an embodied practice or tool you can actually use in your own life. Not to fix yourself or chase perfection, but to reclaim forgotten parts of who you are, stand in discomfort without disappearing, and belong to yourself without losing connection. Less Lost drops September 30th, and I can't wait for you to grab a copy for yourself and maybe one for a friend who could use the reminder you don't need to fix yourself. You just need to find your way back to being yourself. All right, now on to the show. Hey friend, welcome back to Hey Wait. I have a question for you. Do you feel like you're living your story or like you're following a script someone handed you a long time ago? I know it's a big question, but my guest today is going to help make it a less scary one. Because if there's anyone who knows how tearing up the script and improvising something that actually fits, it's Amanda Hirsch. Amanda is a writer, an improv actor, and the author of the brilliant book, Improvising Adulthood: What I Wish Someone Had Told Me, which coincidentally is also what I wish someone had told me. Amanda is deeply obsessed with the stories we tell and why and how we tell them. And as the founder of Mighty Forces, she helps change makers and creative souls express themselves and share their stories more authentically. Amanda and I became fast friends just a couple years ago when a mutual friend introduced us, and we discovered that we both grew up as deep thinking and deep feeling young people in suburban Washington, D.C. We both had events occur when we were in college that led us to start truly forging our own paths. And we both have spent over 2 decades as entrepreneurs and real-life guinea pigs in the art of staying true to ourselves. Our mutual friend calls Amanda an improvisational strategist because she has a way of weaving together diverse inputs on the fly, distilling what matters most, and shaping it into a clear strategic narrative. But what makes Amanda truly good at her work is quite simply that she loves people. And her love is what helps her to make it possible for them to find their voice and their way. Today, we're having a conversation that's deeply connected to the heart of this podcast. We're talking about what it looks like when you pause and ask, hey, wait, is the path I'm on really mine? And then all that goes along with that, including being able to see the scripts you've been handed that aren't yours, being willing to question the status quo, and having the courage to quit stuff. We also talk about if there's no such thing as a wrong choice or a right choice, what kind of choice is there? And how you can start tuning into the yes and the no in your body to guide you forward. So if you get all tripped up around knowing how to make your life yours, listen up, because Amanda's lived a life that's an embodied commitment to following the yes and then to saying yes and. And today she is handing out wisdom and permission slips. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Jay.
Oh, here we are. So listener, this is round 2. Some little gremlin got into the recording of this interview that Amanda and I did weeks ago. I just discovered it yesterday, and moment of nervous system rev. I was like, oh my God, Amanda, we got to do this again. Where are you? Because I'm leaving on vacation tomorrow for 3 weeks. Amanda's not home right now. This is improvising.
That's it. That's it. It always comes back to improv.
It really does. And actually, so that's a great segue right in, because, we can talk about improv in the sense of shit goes sideways like it did this week, and you got to figure out how to improv I'm laughing at how you just showed me your setup for like how you've got the stool and the computer is set up, and like you built this thing so we could have a little office to sit in. So there's that kind of improving. But when it comes to your work and your book, Improvising Adulthood, and what you teach people through Mighty Forces, to me, the heart of it really is like the deeper part of improv, which is looking at the scripts that you have in your life that have been handed to you, whether you're conscious of it or not, and being willing to throw the scripts out. So before we get into your story and the deeper parts of what all this means, I wonder if you could speak to the person listening, whether they're 25 or 75, who might have that gut feeling that the script they're living by isn't theirs. I'm like, what would you tell them about their ability to throw that script out and change the narrative of their life?
I would say that we have so much wisdom in us, and we are so conditioned to pay attention to external voices and forces, to do what our parents tell us, to do what our teachers tell us. Billions of dollars in advertising surrounds us at almost all times, right? Telling us what our bodies are supposed to look like, what a good life looks like. There are the cultures we're embedded in and the cultural narratives that we imbibe. And I mean, I feel almost like I can almost physically feel everything I just described, kind of, right? And like crushing you a bit. And what no one really teaches us, unless we're lucky enough to have like that parent, that educator, that auntie, or that whomever. I mean, what we aren't systematically taught as young people in America is that you get to choose your own life, and that you have a sovereignty that is yours, that is not like someone else might try to cast you in a play, but you didn't necessarily audition for that role or choose to accept it. And then you start to go, well, wait a minute, I'm not actually a character in a play. I feel like there are these lines I'm supposed to say and these choices I'm supposed to make, right? Like I'm supposed to, I'll give, some examples, get good grades. I'm supposed to be polite. I'm supposed to make pleasant conversation with people. I'm supposed to do enough extracurricular activities that I look compelling to the college admissions office. I'm supposed to go to a 4-year college, that I'm supposed to make enough money. I should save my money intelligently as well, right? I should. And what is a revolutionary act in the midst of all of that exhausting noise is to just reconnect with your inner wisdom, your innate, intuitive wisdom, and develop a capacity to hear what that wisdom is telling you, what it's asking for, and to make choices accordingly. And in my own, and that's, the metaphor of improv is so rich for that, because, on one side we have the scripted play where your every word and your every move is blocked and planned, and you either remembered the line correctly or you got it wrong. Or on the other side, you have improv, where you're playing on stage with your fellow human beings, and you're making a choice, and then you're making another choice, and then you're making another choice, moment to moment, and together you are creating something that never existed before. And that is the metaphor for life that I want to invite more people into experiencing.
I'm totally with you. And as you're saying that, I'm getting the vibes of like being inspired, like, yeah, make something that's never existed before. And, I have the right to choose my life. And you and I, this is something we share in common. We have both dedicated our lives to this kind of living. And yet, my dear Amanda, there's also the part of me that as you're saying that is like, yeah, but how do you do that? You know what I mean? Like, meaning for those of you who aren't watching, Amanda was, like when she was talking about connecting to your body and to your wisdom, she had her hands on her chest and her eyes closed, and that is a practice to develop. And I'm aware, like I was saying as I was listening, that there are so many different places where that can be hard to do. And I want to actually see if we can unpack some of those. But before we do that, maybe step back, because as we were saying, this is your life's path. This is what you've dedicated yourself to. And you somehow discovered in college really early on that you did have the ability to choose your own life, which I don't think many people get quite in that way at that time in their life. So could you tell the listener more about that experience for you, and maybe like how it plays into going from the old mindset of like, there's a right way, there's a script, to how you got off that track?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I grew up in a suburb of Washington, D.C., very achievement oriented. My parents both had sort of executive level office jobs. That was like the water I swam in. And so my sense of what people did with their life and what life looked like was very shaped by that cultural context. So the examples, quote unquote, that I gave a minute ago about some of the narratives you might internalize living in our country are very much like ding, ding, ding narratives that I internalized. So, and I'm actually going to share a story I share in my book, which was, I think, the beginning of my awakening to like, oh, I'm acting out a bunch of scripts that I didn't choose. So, and it's a funny way to begin. My husband and I, my now husband, Jordan, and I were dating, and we were 18, 19 years old, and my parents invited us to join them out for dinner. You know the story.
I remember this story. Yes.
And we're sitting in this, because sometimes, right, like these spiritual awakenings, like they come from, unexpected places. So Jordan and I sitting in this lovely Italian restaurant with my parents in Washington, D.C. We're suburban kids, so a night in the city is like, ooh la la, right? And so we go and we sit down and we're starting to eat, and Jordan grabs a piece of bread from the basket in the middle of the table and takes a butter knife and dips it in the butter and starts spreading butter over his bread. And one of my parents says, oh, actually, the polite way to do that is to rip off one piece of bread and at a time and butter it. So don't take like a big old piece of bread and slather the butter on, their intention was like taking this young man under their wing and teaching him like the polite ways of the world or whatever. And Jordan, though, this was the turning point in Amanda's life, because Jordan goes, why? What?
Right, because I'm imagining I would go into like, oh, I'm sorry, let me do it that way, and my whole body, and just to relax, I'm imagining him putting this buttered piece of bread in his mouth and being like, why?
And I was like, what? Like, why? Like, it's amazing to me because as an adult, I am so the person who asks why. Like, that is so who I am now. Why? Like, I need to know why before I do anything. But that I was under the spell, back then. And my parents said something like, oh, well, it's just considered polite. I mean, it wasn't like a deeply satisfying answer. It was the most you could say in response to that particular, like, there's no deep reason, but just the idea that you could ask why something was the polite or right way of doing something about something as inconsequential as how you eat your freaking bread at the restaurant or whatever, planted a seed in me, because within within a year, I was asking, why am I at college? Why are my parents paying $30,000 a year to send me somewhere? For the sake of getting an education? What does that mean? Like, and all of a sudden it felt like I was alert to the fact that there were sort of platitudes being spoken that weren't telling the whole truth or the whole story. And I started to realize, well, gosh, it was like I just woke up to the systems that were occurring around me in the world too. And I thought, well, okay, so it actually seems like people here aren't that interested in learning. No one's like lit up by learning, but we're here because we're supposed to. So but wait, there's a lot of talk about what job we're going to do after college. And there's a lot of really wealthy people. And now I'm hearing about people graduating into jobs at McKinsey and Company making $100,000 a year. And all of a sudden it feels like the real stories that we're here to get like golden tickets into high paying jobs based on the symbolism of the credential we're earning, as opposed to, you know, the sake of education in its purest sense.
Right.
And now I hear myself saying that. It's like, yeah, of course, Amanda. Of course, that's what
Yeah,
it was.
but you're swimming in that water. You can't even describe it at the time.
And so I was beset. I was not happy in college. I was beset by a few things. I think just the existential angst that a lot of very thoughtful young people probably go through at around that age, like leaving the nest, going out into the world and being like, what does it all mean? I mean, to some extent, that's just how some of us navigate those years. And then to some extent, I was madly in love with Jordan, the butter questioner, who didn't.
How could you not be?
I mean, it's pretty hot, right? It's pretty hot when someone is going to ask about table manners. It's like, all right, well, let's get married. Let's make babies.
You're my person.
Yeah. So, and he went to a different school, and not only did I miss him, but I had a level of connection with him that became a bar that I compared other connection, like here was like essentially my soulmate. And so then like making casual chit chat with people in the dorm just sort of didn't live up to that. And it wasn't satisfying in nearly the same way. And then, 10 years later, I'd find out I have clinical anxiety and depression. And I think that was rearing its ugly head as well. So I was very unhappy. It got to the point where I really felt like I was truly just going through the motions. I was walking down the street. I mean, I never forget this morning. I was in Philly, where my school was, at the University of Pennsylvania. And I'm walking, and somehow it feels worse that I'm walking past all these chain stores on Walnut Street. I'm walking past like the Gap and a Cinnabon. And it, I just felt so isolated. I don't know, it all felt so cold. And I'm like, tears are streaming down my face. And I get back to my dorm and I call my best friend from childhood, Kate. And she's like, Amanda, you just need to get on a train and go home. Like, stop. And I mean, talk about going off script. You don't just get on a train and go home in the middle of the week, in the middle of the semester, in the middle of, I can't remember if it was maybe it was like I think it was the fall of my junior year. And, but I did. And I went home and I feel the power, as I say it to you, of that moment too, because that is such a pivotal moment in the journey too. Someone saying, I think you need to stop. And instead of just being like, no, it's fine, or I can't stop, or just being like, oh shit, you're right. I need to fucking stop.
Yeah.
And so I went home and I thought about transferring, and I think I talked to a therapist, but I don't think I was diagnosed with anything. And I was just very lost. And in the middle of all this, my mom, who is a powerhouse, called Penn, and she got pissed. She was like, I sent you an upbeat, like, curious, engaged young woman. And this shell of a human has come back to me. And like, what's up, Penn? Like, what you going to do about it? And I mean, not to put it all on, I mean, obviously they can't help if I'm clinically depressed or questioning the meaning of the world. But she also was like, do you even know that this student is as like lost as she is? And like, do you have any mechanisms in place to help someone, And that was an enormous lesson modeling advocacy. You don't, right? And so that also gets woven in here in this idea of sovereignty and choosing your life, that you can get off the treadmill, you can stop, and you can also fucking speak up. Like,
hey, wait, this isn't working. Can you see me? Can you see me? Yeah. Consider me.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to just make it work or contort yourself to fit the thing. You can ask the thing, what about me? Right. Like, I'm participating in this institution. Maybe for someone listening, it's this organization, or it could be this family or whatever. And as a participant in such, like, I have a voice. Hey, wait, very much. So, and the woman she spoke to, I ended up getting on the phone with her. She was an advisor, and she was like, look, Amanda, you're a communications major. I was doing that because I thought it was very practical. I thought, you study communications, then you graduate, you can do a thing, right? You can go into broadcast journalism, or you can you can work in publishing. But again, this is the good girl in me was really giving me a hard time because, my dad had very gently said before I went to college, we hope you can figure out what you want to do while you're there, which parsed through someone else's personality, psyche, whatever, would have been delightful 4 years to explore. To me, I was like, I have a fucking assignment. I got to get this right. I got to get an A.
Get it right.
I got to figure out, what am I doing here? Why? What do I want?
Answer.
There's a right answer, and there needs to be an answer. I just made it the worst. What could have been the loveliest little comment from dad to me turned into this very serious and crushing assignment. And by the way, my parents never once mentioned the cost of pen or how, all of that came from me. All of that came from me. I mean, these are people who started out with nothing, worked their asses off. By the time it came to it, they could pay to send me to Penn. And so they were probably delighted to be able to do that for me. So they weren't like, how you spending that 30,000 this year? They weren't like that, but I just was so hard on myself. And so, anyway, she was like, I'm noticing that every elective you've taken has been in the English department. And in fact, most of them have been upper level seminars. All the creative kids at Penn, for better or worse, are in the English department. You should just be an English major. And I was like, what do we do with an English? It's not practical. She goes, be that as it may, the people that you are not finding, the vibes you are not finding, I'm telling you where they are, just go to them. And so I did, and decided to come back and be an English major. And one of the first classes I had to take, so I was in this lopsided position where I was, I think, a junior and had taken all these upper level English credits, but now I needed to take intro to British literature, these introductory courses to complete the major. So I'm sitting there, we're learning Chaucer and we're reading the English mystery plays, which are all based on Bible stories. And the professor asks us to write a paper about something or other. And all of a sudden, this is the moment where I discover new Amanda is online.
Did you have a butter moment? That's what I'm going to call it now.
I did. I was like, but why? Why?
Yeah.
Except I didn't just say why. I also had an idea. I said, I could write a paper like you've asked us to. And I said it probably in the least combative, sweetest, politest way possible.
I'm sure you did. Right.
Right. I wasn't like, yo, take your paper assignment and shove it. I was like, do you think it would be possible if instead I wrote a play? And she said, yeah. And so I did write a play. I wrote a play that was a modern day reinterpretation of what's it called? What do you call it with Mary getting pregnant? Immaculate Conception. So it's pretty heavy stuff. But and we read it as a class. We did a staged reading.
Amazing.
It was so much fucking fun.
Juice. Alive.
Yeah. I want to say the butter was melting, but I'm not sure that's the right metaphor. Or I was spreading butter all over the place. I'm not sure. And that, Jay, and I know you had a similar moment in college. That was like a rebirth, because I was asking for if I could do things my own way and being told yes. And then it was fun. And I felt I keep wanting to say, I felt like I had come online finally. And briefly, because
connected.
Yes, I ended up doing an independent study where I recommended a change to the way that they did freshman orientation that would create space for people to reflect on what they wanted to get out of create space to ask about the butter.
To ask why.
Yeah, to ask why. And so, and to use writing to reflect on that, and to do that work, I interviewed people all throughout the university community and learned words like hegemony and all of this. And it was, so then end of my senior year, the head of the English department calls me into her office, and I still remember she was sitting behind like a very big wooden, like cherry desk. And she said, Amanda, I wanted to let you know that you've been nominated for Phi Beta Kappa, to join the Phi Beta Kappa Society, which is an honors designation. And I thought, oh, thank you. And because I thought, it's because I got straight A's. Like that's what I had gotten accolades and recognition for my entire life. And so you hear Phi Beta Kappa, you think, oh, it's just, I just thought it was. And so I said, okay, thank you, and that's great. And she said, and I want you to know the reason is that so many of us were really impressed and struck by the independent approach that you've taken to your education. And I think that was one of the first times that I was ever truly proud of myself. It just felt completely different than, a gold star, an O for outstanding, an A.
Yeah.
I felt seen and like I was being honored and recognized for something that was really important to me and meaningful to me. So, I emerged from all of that, from the butter to the depression and leaving school and coming back and then doing it my own way. It was like Amanda 2.0, right? It was like, oh, there is a different way of moving through the world where I step away from things that aren't serving me and I create opportunities for myself to do things that are meaningful for me.
So as I'm listening there, I'm hearing the different kind of pieces along the way, because I'm thinking, for you, this happened in college for the first time. I know it's happened many times since then, this kind of iterative process of what's alive for me here. But if we could pull out the gems, let me see if I've got this. So to go from Amanda to Amanda 2.0, to the version of you who recognized you could write your own life. It started with questioning status quo. If this is someone listening, doesn't matter if you're in college or you're never went to college or you're 57 years old or whatever, it sounds like the process is you question the status quo. You connect to your yeses and your nos, because at that time you were talking about like the no of walking down the strip of the chain stores and how that felt versus the yes of writing or reading, like the things that were creative for you. And I also hear in that, and you didn't necessarily do this at that moment, but like starting to realize, what are the stories I'm carrying about what is right and wrong? Yeah. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, well, and that's the first part of my book is about encouraging people to take stock of their, or what I call origin stories, right? Like we like to talk about superheroes have origin stories, so-and-so fell into a vat of radioactive this or that, and then they became, right? It's like, but we all have origin stories. We all have stories. I mean, I just shared a seminal one of mine, but before that, I had unknowingly been carrying around a lot of other people's stories, versions. And so, yes, for everyone listening, I think just to amplify and like underline a couple of things that Jay just said. One is dare to ask why. And in fact, when I have advised nonprofit organizations over the years, or other clients of mine, a lot of times there is so much power in all contexts of life in asking why until you can't ask why anymore. So it's sometimes you don't just ask it once. So for example, why do I have to butter my bread this way? Well, it's just considered polite. Why is it considered polite? Well, I guess the aristocracy back in Europe buttered their bread that way. Why? Well, I don't, you can keep, I
Why do
mean,
we
it's,
care? Right. Why
who
is this
gives a
still?
shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you can also do that like, oh, well, we need to launch a podcast as an organization. Why? Well, we need
Hmm.
to build our audience. Why? Well, we need to raise more money.
Right. Because
Why?
that then brings you back to out of the like automaton, I
Yep.
will do this, into well, what actually is the point and what aligns to that better?
Beautifully said. What actually is the point and what aligns to that better? And so like just something I hope people take away from listening to this conversation is permission to ask why and to keep asking why. You're dancing. You
I'm
like
like,
that.
give me some permission.
But like, so just keep asking why until it makes sense in your bones, right? And sometimes, what's that famous Rainier Marie Rilke quote about sometimes, we have to sit with the
Mm.
answers long before we ever arrive at the questions.
Learn to love the questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes asking why, it's not a rapid fire pace of discovery. Sometimes you ask why, and then you go through the world for 6 months or 5 years or whatever. And then you
Yeah.
finally, the why lands. But
Yeah.
you have permission to ask why you are spending your life the way you are, um, why do you commute in your car for 45 minutes to work every day? Why do you live where you live? Why do you spend time with the people you spend time with? Why do you get a paycheck the way you get a paycheck? Why do
Oh,
you,
okay.
all of
So
that?
I'm going to jump in there because, again, there's the like juice in that, like, oh, yeah, let me ask why. But then I feel where I know myself and a lot of the people I work with get trapped is then the next place is, yeah, but there's a right way. Like I might come up with, I'm driving 45 minutes one way to my job and I don't really like doing that. But and then blah, 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 blah,
Right, right, right.
but I need to make this much money or I need to have this kind of stability and so can we jump to the part about choices, making choices? Because I know that I can get real wrapped up in like I might know what I want, but then I go to, yeah, but that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a right way. I was just talking with a friend the other day. I was doing this project and I told her, I was like, I'm really stuck right now because I'm feeling like there's a right answer and I don't know what it is. And she was like, oh, honey, I can totally tell that's exactly where you're stuck. So
Yeah.
you say something in your book about tell me if I'm getting this right. There we go. Tell me if I'm getting this right, Amanda. God. That there's no right or wrong choice. There's just the choice you've made and the next choice.
That's correct. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure I said
Something
it
like that.
exactly like that, but that's absolutely right. And it's such an important reminder to come back to because I do that too. I mean, I'm not like some like Buddha on a hill who, never still struggles with all this. I absolutely do. We teach what we most want to learn, right?
Yeah.
So why am I writing a book about improvising your life? Because I'm reminding myself too, like, oh, right, Amanda, you get to improvise your life. So I think a couple of things. One, yes, in terms of getting it right. Right and wrong depends entirely on context and audience. Here's what I mean by that. When I was in my 20s, I left a series of jobs because I was fucking miserable and I was very lost. And I felt bad about myself at the time because very much the feedback I got from some people in my life was just suck it up. What the
You're a
fuck is wrong
quitter.
with you? You're a quitter. Other people
Yeah.
just deal with all these things that you're saying you can't deal with about being in an office or like their job not being the pinnacle of their life's purpose or whatever. And in some ways, like that inner critic that has become the voice of my own inner critic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've internalized that. And so I didn't feel good about myself, but I was so unhappy in some of these places. And I felt such a strong bodily, spiritual sense of wrong that I, in these couple of instances, left
Mm-hmm.
and made moves in another direction. Okay, so that I was making the wrong choices. If you had asked a lot of people, nobody was
Right.
going, Amanda, get on with your bad self. Like, look at you carving your own path. Like, look at you listening to your inner guidance, making bold choices. None of that. It was, you're broken. Something's wrong with you. You can't suck it up. Fast forward to, I'm in my 40s. Guy reaches out to me from LinkedIn and wants to talk to me about potentially leading a division of his organization. And I felt so seen by him, and he had hardly, I mean, we just met, but I felt like he got me. And he was like, well, looking at your background, it's just so clear that you've always led a very values and purpose driven
Context.
career. Yeah, context. He was like, you seem like a badass hero to me. And like the person
You've
I want
made
to have.
choices where you left things, you've pivoted, you've
That was
darted.
bravery. That was bravery.
Yeah.
That was agency. That was creativity. That was conviction. That was vision. That was whatever. And it's the same set of choices that made me feel like a piece of shit in my 20s. So, you know, again, it comes back to who's telling the story. Is the person like, and where does that narrator's voice come from? If you're looking at yourself and going, why can't I just get it together? Everyone else, all my other friends have done this, this, and this. Da, 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 da. Whose voice is that really? I mean, I'm not a trained therapist, but I think a lot, you know, if you've been in therapy, like that's often, it's like, oh, is that what adult's voice that you grew up with is that?
Right.
Or what voice?
Or amalgamation of culture.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
What like this, I'm imagining my daughter watches so many cartoons. I'm imagining some like ugly creature that's like this amalgamation of all the negative like voices that you've ever heard. And you're just like, you're like, oh, it's in me now. And it's narrating my life and guiding my choices. So when you're asking like, what's the right thing to do with this project? That's not really Jay asking, like real Jay, I would imagine, right? That's like your nasty little cartoon amalgamation of people that have judged you or told you that this was how we do things and this was not how we do things, right? It all comes from ultimately like fear. It's not your source of power or inner strength. You get quiet. And I don't mean to gloss over this. And this is the brilliance of what you do is you help people get real specific about what does that mean to instead tune into your inner guidance. But that is so like opposite of nasty cartoon blob is embodied. What does it feel like in my body? If I think about doing X or if I think about doing Y instead, do I feel spacious or do I feel constricted? Do I feel like excited and warm? Do I feel like, what does it feel like? And that is why I talk it overlaps so much with the work you do and with your own expertise and wisdom. But I talk a lot in the book, and it comes back to improv, about noticing what's a yes and what's a no. And in the art of improv, and when you're doing a scene with somebody, I say this in the book too, but you can't just like in the middle of an improv scene go, oh, wait, just hold on, pause the show and like whip out your laptop, pull up Excel, make a spreadsheet of all the next moves you could possibly make in the scene.
Come on.
No, Jay. I mean, it could be sort of a really avant-garde approach to an improv show, but not as much fun for you. I was going to say not as entertaining for the audience, and that's true. Certainly, I mean, just literally, no one wants to watch someone work on a spreadsheet, but also not as juicy and alive for you, as opposed to what you learn, and this is why studying the art of improv and practicing the art of improv is so powerful, even for people who have no intention of ever getting up on stage and, you know, doing an improv show, is that it teaches you how to be in a moment and be tuned in and make choices and then keep making. You don't just make one choice and go, I did it. I did an improv show. I made a choice, right? Like and we haven't even begun to talk about what it means to be in scenes with other people, which again comes back to this, hey, wait, of like, I'm here and you're here and we're navigating that together.
Right. Like the yes and is I see your reality. I'm not going to deny it. And I'm going to add mine in.
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued by that and going that direction. But I want to come back to what you were saying about choices, because we were talking about right and wrong and being able to get out of that and knowing how to tap into yes and no in your body, that you said it like that there is an art, that there is a practice being able to feel your yes and no. I find that most of the time people know what their yes and no's are. The confusion comes when they feel like, yeah, but that's right or wrong.
You know, this is yes, but it's actually, it should be no.
Exactly. So then they say, I'm confused. And it's like, no, you're actually not confused. You know what the yes is. You know what the no is. It's about how do you play with that. So permission too. And so I want to come back to one of the ways you work with this with clients, because this is where the improv comes in. Because to me, it feels like if you're just looking at right, wrong, yes, no, that's still very black and white. Talk about next choice, because that to me is like, let's play about the fact that it isn't just two things we're choosing between.
Right. It's not a binary. It's not like.
Thank you. Binary is the word I couldn't come up with.
Yeah.
God,
but like, it's word. Not, you either like you did it right, all the gold stars, the confetti rain down, you're perfect, celebrate you, or, oh, I'm so sorry, you have fucked that up. And you need to go sit with a dunce cap in the corner, you know, and eat a stale piece of cake. So, because what's worse? What could possibly be
I was going to say, still cake. I mean.
No, well. So, I'm sorry, Jay. In all my cake
next
jokes,
choice.
I lost. Next choice. Yes. Okay. So, new choice is the game. No, it's fine. And so in improv, there's a game we play called New Choice, and it literally would go like this. So if two people are doing a scene, one of them says, "Oh, I'm so glad you could come in for the interview." The second one says, "Oh, I'm so happy to be here. It's really a dream." Great. And then the coach on the side yells, "New choice." So they start again. "Oh, I'm so glad you could come in for this interview." "Fuck you. Like, I wouldn't take this job if it was the last job on earth." Like, oh, okay. All right. New choice. "I'm so glad you could come in for this interview." "Yeah, well, I'm your wife. It would be pretty awkward if you didn't grant me an interview." Right. Or whatever, you know. So you see, I just spit that out right here. That's three different ways that scene could go. So, and we'll play and play and play and play. And it gets just, you go past the reaches of the absurd, and then you come back to like, oh, why didn't I even make that was the first choice? Because now that seems like a really practical, obvious choice I could have made. It goes weird and not weird. And all of a sudden, well, I'm skipping ahead. So I have an exercise I encourage people to do in my book, which is to play new choice with themselves. So let's play new choice, you and me here.
Okay.
If you're up for it. Let's think about a choice that you're trying to get out the door for vacation. I don't know, are there choices you're trying to make about how to spend your time or what to prioritize? Or is there something else in life that you're trying to make a decision about that you feel okay talking about?
Yeah. I definitely can. It resonates with me trying to make a choice of what are the things that I need to spend time on before I go. Because there's not enough time to do all the things I feel like I need to do. Mm-hmm. So that does feel like a choice.
That feels right. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's see if I can think of a good way to ask it. So like, Jay, for you to feel at peace as you set off on your vacation, what are the three things that you most need to get done?
Packing, because that does seem like the appropriate place to start. I was going to put that not on the list, but I got to get my shit together, literally. I want to have all the social media stuff I need to do before I go done, so I don't have to think about that on vacation at all. And I would like to have everything connected to this podcast wrapped and to my team, so I don't have to focus on that. Okay.
New choice. Jay, what are the three things that you need to get done before you go in order to feel at peace on vacation?
I need to take an afternoon off so that I don't feel so strung out before I leave. Did you say three things? Because I got so enamored by that one that I was like, ooh.
Your whole tone and body shifted too.
Yeah, I need to. So linked to that, I could say I need to drop the idea that all these other things need to be buttoned up in order for me to have a good vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to cut my husband's hair because it's getting wily and it'll be 3 weeks. So I'm going to make sure I get his haircut in because
So
I'm the
sweet.
hairdresser.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, so we're going to keep playing here, Jay. You're leaving on vacation in a couple of days. You can pick 3 things that you need to get done before that for you to feel a sense of peace heading into your trip. What are the 3 things you're going to do?
I'm going to spend more time with my cat because this is the longest time we've ever left her. And I'm worried about her. And I want to connect with her. I want to get that done. The other thing I want to get done is I need to pick the cover for my book. I'm down to the last 2, and if I can pick it today, it gets run and ready to go. And I need to make sure I stop the mail. She said as she looked at the mailbox out the window.
Okay, so let's just do one more round and then we'll reflect on it. So, Jay, I hear you're going on vacation in a few days. You can pick 3 things that are the most important things to get done for you to go on your vacation with a sense of peace. What 3 things do you need to do?
I need to set time aside to call one of my good friends who I haven't connected with in a while, and it'll be like almost another month if I don't. I'm going to go more to the end of absurd for me because this isn't true what I would be. I need to paint my toenails.
Yeah.
And I need to get together all the best snacks.
Okay. All right. I'm very
important.
curious because, okay, please unpack. What was that experience like for you? We did 4 rounds.
Well, I definitely started very practical. Like, okay, if I had to nail it down to what are the most important things, like the Rolodex in my mind of all the things that I know on my to-do list, I was kind of flipping through them, really truly trying to pick what's the most important thing. And then I started to feel more playful about it, of like, what if none of that is actually true and I can do other things that are the sort of things I would be doing on a day that I didn't feel like there was a cutoff to time, that everything after that was untouchable or something like that. So I started to feel more spaciousness. And when I gave myself the permission to say out loud, like, what if I just took an afternoon off and didn't push, and you mirrored back to me that everything about my body and my voice changed, I was like, maybe that's the answer. Because everything else felt either practical or silly. You know, like either this is quote unquote the right answer, or this is just a silly answer I'm throwing out. But that one felt like it came from some resonance, some truth.
And imagine that you had a client who was like, I have to do this and this and this before the trip. And then you saw them say, like, with some prompting, like, oh yeah, or oh, I could take a nap. Like, what would you say to them?
Nice try, Amanda. Trying to get me to be my own coach here. I would say, did you feel that? Did you notice that? Because that feels like that came from a place in you that's true. And I know you have these ideas of what's going to make this time off feel better, and the things that you feel like you need to have buttoned up and off your plate. But doesn't it seem true that if you go into your trip with a little less rev in your nervous system, everything will get done eventually and you'll feel better?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I also just feel like, I'm 49 years old. I've lived enough life as a recovering perfectionist to know that in those moments when we feel so stressed and we feel like peace lies on the other side of just a bit more productivity, right? The power
Sounds so
move,
gentle when you say it that way.
just a bit more productivity. Hashtag hustle culture. But like the power move is the nap. The power move is And when I say the power move, I mean like really connecting with your inner, like your true power.
Yeah.
Like you can think, oh, like to be a boss, well, certainly it's a given. You're going to have to pack at some point. Like, yes, you're going on a trip here. I mean, unless I suppose your new choice could be, I'll buy a new wardrobe on my trip or whatever. But, right. We could even challenge the extent to which you have to pack. Plenty of people go on trips
Sure.
that they don't pack for, but let's make that a granted. But, the other things, it's like, the good girl, the productive, capitalism will reward the person who lines up her 3 weeks of social media before she's gone and tucks every little last detail. That's like you get the productivity star, right? But you probably don't emerge from all that feeling peaceful like that, because that was the question, was what's going to make you feel peaceful at peace as you go into your trip? You would probably feel intellectually like you were a good worker.
Yeah. If I'm measuring my worth by my output, my productivity, I get to go, okay, check, I did that. Now I get to rest, as opposed to what if I just got to rest?
Right. What if, and also it's not, to your point about binary earlier, it's not either or. Like, you're the last person I did tell, if you took a nap, if you gave yourself permission to take a nap this afternoon, let's call it an hour, where you lay down and maybe you sleep, maybe you don't, maybe you're just like meditating or listening to a sound bath or whatever, but you're resting for an hour. The juice that would give your spirit, yourself.
My jaw just softened I was like,
and then you get to make another choice. Then you get to say, sorry, if you can hear that in the background, my parents have a landline and it's ringing. It has not rung the entire time that I've been here. So if you're all hearing what sounds like the old days, that is the old days is asserting itself here. But like we all know that feeling of like hunker down, right? And then you like actually these moments in life where you can radically give yourself permission to like just like, I now know I'm old enough, I'm experienced enough to know that when I'm feeling this way, in fact, I need to do the opposite of what I'm telling myself I need to do. I need to just stop. And then afterwards, you get to make a new choice, right? Afterwards, you get to go, okay, now that my nervous system, as you put it, isn't in rev, now that I'm feeling better.
Right.
Now let me choose. I've got a day and a half before my flight or whatever it is.
Yes.
What's the what's the next best thing? Like, what's the next thing I'm going to choose to do?
Yeah. It's one right after the other, which can sound exhausting, but really when you're doing it from the place of where's my energy, what's most true, what resonates, the being able to make choice after choice after choice is the liberation.
Yes.
It's the freedom. It's the flow.
I mean, I think that's the lie that we tell ourselves, and we tell ourselves this lie, I think, well, for reasons that would, it'd be interesting to explore. But I think we tell ourselves the lie that making choices is exhausting and hard, and it's easier to just follow the script.
I think you're so right about that. So right. If someone just hands me the script, tells me what to do, I can do it. And there is something that is not taxing about that in an energetic sense, except there's also something that's deeply taxing about that in an emotional, spiritual, soulful, because you're just going to get so far away from yourself.
And continuing to make choices means sometimes you could choose to go with another person's script, right? Like, again, it's moment by moment. You're checking in with yourself and you're making a choice. So you could wake up from your nap and be like, all right, what do I feel to do next? And you could be like, it's kind of exhausting me to think about it. I'm just going to pick one. Most people would probably pack before a trip. I'm just going to pick that. Like, it doesn't have to be
right.
You just pick, right? Like, it doesn't have to be like, well, every inch of my soul sings with the truth of packing, right? It could just be like, I took a rest. I'm feeling better. All right, what next? I don't know, because maybe there's no right answer. Like, there's a lot of things you could do. I mean, you listed a lot of things that more things than are maybe doable over the next couple of days, all things that are legitimate things to choose to do between now and going on a trip. So some of them will happen and some won't. right?
Yeah.
So at some point too, I had my first improv teacher ever, Topher Bellavia, shout out, through Washington Improv Theater here in Washington, D.C., where I am this week. He said, in improv, it doesn't matter what choice you make so much as it matters that you make a choice and you commit to it.
Bingo.
And some people go, oh, well, then that's pressure. I had to commit to the choice. No, you don't have to commit for the rest of your life. You're committing to the choice for now. Make a choice. So instead of
until you know what the other one might be.
Right. Instead of spinning like, oh shit, am I going to finish up all my social media first? Or am I going to pack first? Or am I going to do on my podcast to-do list first? You pick a thing and you do the thing. And then you pick another thing. And then you do that thing, you know? Yeah. So,
well, speaking of landlines, it's trash day here. I don't normally record on Wednesdays because it's trash day. So if you're hearing trash day outside, that's what's happening. It's a lot of real life happening right now.
I just glanced at the clock and I realized we've been talking for a while, and I'm like, oh, maybe the outside world is like knocking on our consciousness and being
saying,
hey, Amanda.
Wrap it up, ladies. Yeah, phone calls. Trash is here. Let's do it. So I want to hold up your book for those of you who are watching. This is Improvising Adulthood, which I love the everything about it, the title, the look of it. And what I would say is this book is an absolute must gift for anyone you know who's like graduating high school, graduating college, because that's the time when, oh my gosh, I wish everybody that age had this. But it's also for anybody who is wanting to look at, hey, these scripts don't feel like mine.
Yep.
And in it, you tell more stories from your life, as well as more tools like New Choice. So people can actually get into what are the traps and the pitfalls of trying to improvise your life, and here are the ways to support that. Where else can people find more about your work, Amanda?
AmandaHirsch.com, and that's Amanda Hirsch is HIRSCH.com. And you can find my books there, you can find my newsletter, and you'll also find a link to my business, because I have a storytelling company called Mighty Forces. And I help individuals and organizations get clear on the stories they want to tell and how to tell them in more powerful ways. Links to all of the things are right there at AmandaHirsch.com.
Cool. And to come back to the question I always ask at the end, what is a way that a practice or a ritual you have where you stay with yourself, either throughout your day or when other people are around?
I mean, my two go-tos, which, I mean, I like to use Hey Wait when I'm in a group situation that I can't step away from, or a communal situation. In terms of just in general, journaling is one of my go-to tools. And I was just saying to someone the other day, the powerful thing about journaling, as with really whenever you take you act in service of yourself, there's so much power in doing it that even if I ideally wish I could write 3 pages, if I am feeling frazzled and I have time to sit down and write half a page before my next call, that brings me back to myself. Not in part because I literally have processed some things on the page, and in part because it comes back to just like your nap, because I took a moment for myself.
Right.
And that sends such a deep message to myself. In improv, we say to each other, I've got your back before we go on stage. If I can take a minute or two and write half a page in my journal before my next call, it's like I'm saying to myself, I've got your back. I've got your back. Yeah. Right. So that's one. And then I am such a nerd for sound baths. If I could spend my life just in sound baths, going in between, like writing in my journal, getting a massage, and absorbing it. Right. And so anyway, I make no money from saying so, but I love the Insight Timer app. They have some wonderful sound baths. I really like Sonic Yogi has some things that I find really powerful, but there are a lot of treasures there. And what I love too is you can say like, I have 5 minutes or I have 30 minutes. And so, again, right size it for the amount of time you have, and 5 minutes of listening to something soothing is a lot more powerful than, it comes back to the right and wrong. Like, oh, I don't have 30 minutes. None for me. Right. It's like, well, okay. So how about 3 minutes of ocean sounds or whatever, 3 minutes of whatever it is. So, yeah, my two go-tos are the journaling and the whatever length of sound bath I can get my little hands
Yeah.
on.
Well, thank you, because I now am going to add 5 minute sound bath to my before I need to go. That feels like, I'm like, yeah, my body was into that.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it just washes over you. It's so good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I feel like there's a lot more I wanted to talk to you about. I feel like this conversation about making choice to make your life yours is so rich, and so there's so much to it. But I want to thank you for what you did bring. And I hope that the listener walks away. I hope today you question some butter or something like innocuous, something little. Don't go, it doesn't have to be, am I in the right job? Do I need to be moving to another town? Like, question the status quo of something little in your life and just see what it feels like. Because that is a great way to start practicing, where the little scripts you can be like, F that, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah. I'm now
And
imagining having a conference one day where I serve butter and everyone like on purpose butters their bread in the like it's like the improvising adulthood conference. We're at a trough and there's baskets of bread and we're all just like putting butter on our arms.
However you want to. There's your next sketch. I feel like that's also
a treasure trove of butter related wisdom and humor.
I know. Who knew there was going to be so much butter related wisdom today? Thank you. And to everyone listening, including you and I, Amanda, because I need this reminder all the time. It's, hey, wait, your insights matter, and the right people, like my friend Amanda, will meet you there. So stay with yourself. And I'll talk to you guys next week.